Whitney's speech.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Recently, $50 billion went missing from Wall Street. Yes, I said billion. How does somebody make $50 billion disappear? Today I'm going to talk to you about what happened to that money, where it went, and how we don't have to be the effect of it. It was done through something known as a Ponzi scheme. It's important that we understand how this scheme works so that none of our money gets lost, because that would be bad. So let's start out with what a Ponzi scheme is. Merriam-Webster defines a Ponzi scheme as the following. Quote, an investment swindle in which some early investors are paid off with money put up by later ones in order to encourage more and bigger risks. So today I'm going to talk to you about what a Ponzi scheme is. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about what a Ponzi scheme is, who Charles Ponzi was, who it's named after, and how his scheme worked. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you about Bernie Madoff, who recently did the recent $50 billion Ponzi scheme. And lastly, I'm going to talk to you about what effect that had on the economy. Okay, first of all, let's talk about Charles Ponzi. He was born he came to the U.S. in 1903, and his big claim to fame to make all his money was through something known as international reply coupons, which were basically like international stamps, if you will. And the way it worked is, well, the way he got his idea was somebody mailed him a letter from Spain, and it had an international reply coupon in it. And the way these work is, and this was done in the 1920s when inflation was very high from World War I, and the exchange rates were fixed between countries. So you could buy a stamp in Spain for, let's say, 50 cents, and you could redeem it in the U.S. for, say, 75 cents. So that was his big idea on making lots of money. So he convinced people to loan him lots and lots of money, saying he had investors all over Europe, and you'll get your money back like that. The Smithsonian magazine reported on this, and they said the following, quote, only after his victims were well primed was Ponzi ready to dangle the bait. Quote, the grand plan in which investors receive 50% interest in 90 days. He later sweetened the pot to 45 days. So you get the idea that it was a quick turnaround on your money. He did this over 6 months, and he was able to scam people out of millions. Although he finally did get caught, he went to jail for 3.5 years on a federal crime. And then he did 2 years for the state, and he was actually deported back to Italy as a result. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you about Bernie Madoff. He got his start through trading penny stocks, which are very cheap stocks. They're normally like under $1. And he did really well at it, so he actually started his own investment firm in the 1960s. He had many clients, and the way that he baited people was he told people you could get a good, steady rate of return over a long period of time, when in actual fact there was no investing particularly going on. That rate of return wasn't being achieved. He was also pulling millions out, as well as Charles Ponzi personally. They were both very wealthy individually, when in fact their investors' money was just disappearing. He also was very, very well connected in Wall Street, which is kind of how he got away with this, because he started his investment firm in the 1960s. He was caught in December of 2008. We're talking 50 years. He should have been caught way before now. Here's a quote from the Security Exchange Commission that talks about his connections. It says, quote, Madoff served as vice chairman of the National Association of Security Dealers, a member of its board of governors, and a chairman in its New York region, and was also a member of the NASDAQ stock market board of governors. So you get an idea. This guy was right up there with the top of people. So that's how he got away with it. Lastly, I'm going to talk to you about what the result of this scheme was, who lost their money, and what the effect that had. He lost $50 billion, which I talked about, and here's a quote from actually the federal indictment against him. It says, quote, the company had been insolvent for years. He estimated his losses from the fraud to be at least $50 billion. So you get an idea of the magnitude. He currently is under house arrest, basically, in his penthouse in Manhattan, while the Security Exchange Commission kind of researches more about exactly where did his money go, what exactly happened. Okay, so who lost their money? There's a huge list of people who have been published who have lost their money, but here's kind of a quick synopsis of who it was, or some of the highlights. Kevin Bacon and his wife, there was a former New York governor, Steven Spielberg's charity, the International Olympic Committee, the CEO of DreamWorks, and also many employees of his investment firm reinvested their money into his company. Okay, so the result of that is basically all that money is lost. He's said to have $17 million in assets, which are currently frozen. However, many of them are missing, ironically. Who knows where they went? So those people basically don't have a lot of ability to recoup that funds. So that money is not in the stock market. Those people are out. That money could have paid mortgages, could have paid, car payments, groceries, etc. And now they're just going to have to cope with what they have. There's not any real big spikes in the stock market per se, because it was over such a long period of time that it wasn't like a solid wham and all the stocks fell. Okay, so in summary, I've told you about what a Ponzi scheme is, how Charles Ponzi conducted this scheme, how Madoff conducted this scheme, and the effect that had on the economy. I hope as a result we all invest our money better, and we look into who exactly our investors are, because we've all noticed how deceptive both of these people were. So I've told you how to get away with billions of dollars. Don't go try it at home, because they went to jail. So in conclusion, I hope we all pay attention to exactly where our money is going, who's in control of it, so that we don't lose it and we all safely can keep track of our money.